Welcome back to the Fox Robbins Show. Come on in and sit down for a while. We're going to talk about small business. I say anything and everything there is to say about small business, and then some.
And we've said most of it.
Quite a lot so far.
Still got a lot to say.
This is the Fox Robbins Business Show. This is all about small business, whether it doesn't matter if you're just thinking about starting a business or you're in the act of starting one up, or it's up and running and you want to make changes, or you've got problems to solve or issues that come up and so forth, changing products and markets, acquiring a competitor. How about that?
Merger, acquisition, M&A.
Acquisitions, getting involved in import, export, whatever your condition might be, we're going to talk to you about that sooner or later. And but we're going to continue today, where this is this episode is really a third segment of 3 segments on preparing the business for sale. This is the other end of the scale from the beginning, and it's very, very much as important as the beginning of the business is to get it ready for sale, because businesses, after all, there is a life cycle to business.
So life cycle to people.
Form a business and grow and mature and terminate the business at some point. So we're going to talk about that with a special guest for this third segment. For all 3 segments is going to be the author. We have Tom Gledhill, who is the author of this book called ValueDrivers system, but it's a proven system to help small business owners to be a part of the only 25% that successfully sell their business, and we're going to talk to him about that. I'm the co-host, Bill Fox, but the other co-host of this show, without whom there is no show, is the invincible, irresistible,
I am,
and exemplary Coach Robbins.
Gee, I actually understood those 3 words.
And as I say, our guest for the third segment, on getting a business ready for sale, is Tom Gledhill. Thomas?
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Glad to have you back.
Thank you.
And so we're going to move on to, you're going to make a couple of comments about to recover some of the information we exchanged on the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, I thought it made sense, Bill, to just briefly review what we talked about, especially the reason for the system in the first place.
Right.
And that is that only 25% of businesses, small businesses that go to market, actually sell. And a study by Pepperdine University showed that the majority of small business owners had most of their net worth in the business.
Right.
So if they can't sell the business, they don't have access to that money for their retirement or perhaps their next big venture.
Right.
Now, it's not only the business owner and family that are hurt by this. It's also the employees, right? The employees are now unemployed.
Right.
The community doesn't have that flow of money coming in from the business.
Right.
And the morale of the community is hurt.
And the suppliers and all kinds of stakeholders to a business besides the owner.
Exactly. But also the country is hurt, because collectively, if you take all of these more than 5 million small businesses, 75% of them don't sell, then that could be over $2 trillion taken away from the country over a period of time.
Right.
So in session 1, we also talked about the basics of business valuation. Okay, we talked about the 3 approaches. We talked about the market approach, the income approach, and the asset approach.
Right.
And we said that the income approach was the one primarily used for small businesses.
Right.
All right.
It's all about how much money you're making and cash flow.
Yep.
That's what it is. That's what a business is.
That's what a business is. And the equation, the basic equation for the income approach is the value equals the income divided by the risk. Okay. And the income we talked about is really something called EBITDA,
Right.
which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
Right.
And for smaller businesses, less than 3 million or so, it's something called SDE, or seller's discretionary earnings,
Right.
which is defined as EBITDA plus the owner's salary.
Exactly.
In session 2, we talked about the value drivers, okay? And we said there were basically 16 value drivers that we defined in 4 categories. And the categories are the foundation value drivers, the must-have value drivers, the stabilizer value drivers, and the big hitter value drivers, okay? We talked about rating them on a scale of 1 to 10 for each value driver,
Right.
and then adding each individual value driver for a total score for the company. Now in session 3, we're going to get into who the business buyers are.
Right.
Okay, the various buyer types. We're going to talk about matching what your company has to offer with what the buyer type wants in an acquisition. And then we're going to talk about developing a plan to get from where you are now to where you want to be.
Right.
I'll bet you, Tom, you can ask, and Coach, you can ask 100 business owners about, types of buyers that might be likely to buy their company, wouldn't know what you're talking about.
Wouldn't have a clue, quite frankly,
Wouldn't have a
most of
clue.
them. All right.
Tom?
I had a good-sized company, and I didn't know either. So, it's,
I didn't know either.
you're focusing
Right.
on your company, you're focusing on your customers, your product,
You're an
and
employee.
how to sell your product and
Right.
service, but you're not thinking about how to sell your company. So that's always too far out in the future.
Right.
But the business buyers, we have strategic buyers, we have financial buyers, we have lifestyle buyers or individual buyers, and we have something called industrial buyers. Okay. Now, strategic buyers are companies, typically companies, and they're looking for specialized technology that can take them to another level, that can differentiate them from the competition. Okay.
Right.
They're looking for synergistic products, products that they can immediately sell into their customer base. Okay.
Yep.
Now they might be looking for people. Several years ago, Microsoft bought a small company in Massachusetts, and they bought the company for the CEO, and it was like a signing bonus for the CEO. A few months later, this CEO from a small company became the chief technology officer at Microsoft. Okay.
Right.
So they could also be looking for a geographic presence in an
Right.
area
Which
that they
didn't
don't
have
serve.
Before. Right. They may not have anything in New England, and the easiest way to do it is acquire the company that's basically competing with them, maybe.
Gee, I know a little bit about that.
You do.
It's exactly what happened to me.
So do I.
So your financial buyers are small investment groups of high net worth people or private equity groups.
Right.
We call them PEGs.
Yeah.
Now the high net worth individuals, they use their own money to buy companies.
Right.
The PEGs use other people's money to buy
Right.
companies.
They're
And
professional managers. Yeah.
they're professional managers, experienced professional managers.
Right.
And they're looking to buy a company at one price and sell it a few years later at a higher price.
Did I see this in a movie someplace? Pretty Women?
Yeah,
A
exactly.
woman, rather.
So what they typically do is they'll buy between 60 and 80% of the company, and they'll leave the business owner with 20% to 40% of the company.
Right.
And oftentimes, in the second sale, the business owner can make more money than they made in the first sale.
Sure.
So they get what we call 2 bites of the apple.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
All of a sudden, they've got some professionals involved with the company, not experts in that field or that product or that service, but the PEGs bring professionals who can take and clean the company up
Exactly.
and then sell it for a lot more money than the original owner could have sold it for, and they're perfectly happy because they made even more money.
It's a good deal for the business owner
Absolutely.
because they get to take
Yeah.
60 to 80% out of the company in
Right.
cash.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
And then-
see their other 20 to 40% grow, double, triple beyond what they could have done if they sold 100% of the company to start with.
Exactly.
Right.
It's a very good deal.
Right.
But in order to do that, they're looking for companies that that are growing.
Scalable.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're looking for companies that have opportunities that haven't been exploited.
Yep.
Okay? And they're looking for a solid management team to implement the plan.
Class
to take
A
it
team.
from A to B.
Right.
Okay. Your lifestyle buyers, as I said before, are individuals.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're really looking for a job.
Yeah.
Okay. They're buying a job.
Yeah, they are.
Okay. But they also have the attitude that, hey, I'm buying this, so I'm making an investment here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an investment that I can control.
Right.
So I want to build that so I can have an asset that I can sell someday.
Right.
Okay. So they're looking to build equity. They're looking for the seller to provide some financing. Okay. Because the buyer is not going to have enough cash to buy the company. He's not
More
going to
than
pay
likely
cash for the
not,
company.
right, yeah.
He's going to have a down payment, and the rest is going to be financed.
Yeah.
And banks and even the SBA now are looking for the seller to take some of that financing. They want the seller to have some skin in the game. Okay. So they're looking
They
for.
feel more comfortable when the seller feels that comfortable about the future of the company to retain 20, 25% of the value of the shares of the company. They do. Yeah.
Exactly.
And the seller probably is sitting there saying, this is a great company. Yeah, I'll stay in.
Yep.
You know, the SBA is guaranteeing something to the bank, and the bank feels very comfortable that if things don't go well, which they should,
Well,
they'll still get their money back.
a lot of sellers, when they're selling, they think they're going to sell it for all cash.
Yeah, right.
A lot of them do.
Yeah.
But that's not realistic.
Not always,
No,
right.
that's not realistic. They're also looking for the seller to provide some training, okay? And that training will be part of the transaction fee,
Yeah.
okay?
A lot of times the seller is at, even if he gets 100% of the cash, will stay on, take a job. One of the companies I bought, it wasn't the seller, but it was the general manager. The owner of the company didn't do anything with the company anyway. He was purely an investor.
Yeah,
But I bought the company from the standpoint that the general manager, who was retiring, agreed to stay on with me for another 6 months. He stayed on for 3 years, and I was very grateful because he really knew how to run the company.
yeah, yeah, you need that.
Right.
You need those key people.
Right.
So the last buyer type is what we call an industrial type. Now, these are companies that are on the prowl, looking for companies that they can buy, but they're not really looking for the company. They're looking for assets in the company that they can use.
Right.
And they want to buy it at a rock bottom price.
That's right.
And they're looking for a naive seller, okay, a seller that has no idea what his company's worth,
Right.
has no idea what the process is for selling a company,
Right.
okay? And they're looking for assets that they can use. And it's typically the customer base, okay?
They
And
may
they're,
not want the location, the people, the equipment. They may not. They might.
right,
They just want that customer list.
Yep.
So they can sell their stuff and increase their sales without the overhead.
exactly. And getting rid of a competitor.
And get rid of a competitor to boot.
Yep,
Right.
Yep. So that's an industrial.
Right. But those,
Now, in session 2, we talked about the value drivers, and really what we were talking about is analyzing the company, because we took all of these functional areas of the company and we rated them, a scale of
16
1 to 10.
areas, right?
So now we know what the strengths and weaknesses of our company are. We know
Right.
what the company is. And now we know who the buyer types are and what they're looking for.
Right.
So now we can match them. We can
Right.
match,
Right.
what we've got to what the buyer wants.
Right.
Okay. And we're going to use the following metrics. We're going to use the total value from the scorecard.
Right.
Okay. We're going to use the net revenue of the company. We're going to use the EBITDA of the company.
Right.
And we're going to use any intellectual property
right.
that we may
If
have.
there is any.
If there is any,
processes, that might be.
Yep.
Yep.
A lot of companies have them and they don't even know it.
And they don't even, a lot of companies have an exclusive way of doing a business model, we call it.
Yep.
And they're not even aware of the fact that they have it.
Right.
And therefore they don't protect it, which is a different mistake,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But they could sell it if they knew how to say to I do things differently. sign a non-disclosure agreement and I'll tell you how I do it.
At a very minimum, they should document it.
They should document it, because otherwise they can't defend it, but again, that's
Yep.
that's a lawsuit, and that's another show. Right.
So if you've got a scorecard of 130 or more, an EBITDA of 1 million or more,
Yep.
and some unique intellectual property,
Yeah,
then you could clearly qualify for a strategic buyer.
absolutely.
Okay? Now, basically, what this represents is a large public company or a large private company, all right? But there are other strategic buyers out there. There are smaller companies that are strategic buyers.
Right.
So a company of, let's say, 10 million, 10 or 15 million, which is a small company,
Yeah.
could easily buy a company with revenues of 3 or 4 million.
Sure.
Okay?
Right.
And that happens all the time because these small strategic buyers are looking to grow. Mm-hmm. They're looking to grow, to get bigger, to increase their value, increase their profits, so their value is
Right.
more. Okay?
Right.
So they're also strategic buyers. If you've got a scorecard of 110 or greater, you have good management depth, and you have opportunity for growth, then you're a candidate for a financial buyer.
Right.
Now, these financial buyers, these PEGs, and even the investment groups, typically what
Angel
they will
groups, you
do
mean?
is they'll
Yeah.
buy a $20 to $30 million company
Right.
that has an EBITDA of greater than $1 million.
Right.
And that'll function as what they call a platform company. But then they'll go out and they'll buy add-ons that are smaller companies.
Right.
So even if you don't qualify for the platform, you might qualify for an add-on.
Right.
Okay? So you don't have to have an EBITDA of $1 million. You can have an EBITDA of quite a bit less. And still qualify as an add-on.
Absolutely.
Okay?
I just had one that everything I do is confidential, but just had one. It was about $15 million revenue, good bottom line. But they were in the process of rolling up a lot of others, and they sold to a PEG
Yeah.
because that PEG came in and said, you're not quite where we want you to be, but we can see clearly there are at least a half a dozen others out there that were a lot smaller that we can get involved with the roll-up of all those, and then we are where we want to be.
Yep.
And then maybe they'll flip it.
Yep. So a lifestyle buyer, if you have a scorecard of 90 or greater, and your revenues are 3 million or less, and 3 million because an individual is not going to have the resources to buy a bigger company than that.
Right.
Okay. You have sufficient cash flow. Now your cash flow has got to cover the income, it's got to cover the debt service, and it's got to cover any growth that the new buyer would like to have.
Right.
So, and if you got declining growth, you're probably not going to sell anyway, but so declining growth is something that you don't want in this particular case.
Yeah.
And you're going to provide seller financing.
Right.
Okay. So, the industrial buyer, the scorecard doesn't matter. They're just looking for one thing. They're looking for an
Customers.
asset they can use.
Right.
All right. And if they somehow turn into a strategic buyer, then you run for professional help to level the playing field.
Right.
Okay. Now, we're at a point now where we've chosen, we can choose a buyer type. We know what our strengths and weaknesses are, so we can come up with a plan to match, what we have with what the buyer wants, and a plan to take our value drivers. We only want to choose 3 value drivers. So we take those 3 value drivers and we improve those value drivers
Right.
to meet what the
Clean 'em up,
the
work on
buyer,
'em.
what the buyer type
Yeah, and now you're
wants.
preparing
Okay.
your company for sale at a better price. That's
Exactly.
what
Yep. Now, at that point, we really need to establish, we need a market valuation because we need to establish our value at this point. Okay.
you're doing. Right.
So we establish point A, that's the beginning point. We need to establish point B. And a point B is whatever we want to make it. It's
Right.
our desired value and a timeline for getting there. Okay?
Right.
And we provide in the system, we provide a worksheet for the improvement of the value drivers.
Right.
And we also provide a spreadsheet to to monitor the progress
Right.
of your improvement.
Right.
Okay. Now, what have we talked about here in the value driver system? We've defined the problem. We've discussed the basics of business valuation. We've analyzed and rated the company. We've defined the buyer types. Okay. We've matched the company with a buyer type.
Right.
And we've developed a plan.
Right.
Okay. So why did we do this? Well, first of all,
Sell the company for more money.
right, you can make more money immediately.
Well, make the sale in the first
Even if you don't
place,
sell the
it's only,
company.
if you said only 25%
Right.
of the companies that go up for sale get sold, there's 75% who don't.
Right.
So just like, how about just making the deal in the first place?
You can make the deal in the
Getting
first
into the
place.
25%.
But there's a lot more to that, because if you make your company more effective and efficient,
Right.
you're going to make more money.
Right.
So
Even if you don't sell.
So if you do this 30 years before you sell,
Right.
you're going to make more money.
Exactly.
All right? It's easier to get a
Yeah,
bank
you can't
loan.
do it with a month to go.
Right, right. It's easier to get a bank loan.
Yeah.
Okay. Your company, it can make your company more sales ready.
Right.
All right. If you really need to sell your company, you can sell it.
Right.
You can sell it quickly. It gives you more free time.
Right.
All right. More free time to work on your company instead of in your company.
Right.
All right. And you make more money when you sell. Okay.
That's a good goal.
It's a terrific goal. Now, we've developed an online course to make this much easier for people to implement. And in it, it's for people really who need more structure and more accountability.
Right.
All right. So in order to, our mission really is to increase that 25% number, okay? So we've come up with a very affordable price, all right? And right now, we have an introductory price.
Right.
And in addition to that, if you use the coupon VDS 30%, you get a 30% discount,
Not bad.
okay? So we're hoping we can get as many people in here so they can learn how to improve their company so they can sell it at their terms.
Right.
Okay.
So just step into ValueDriverSystem.com and then just go from there. I mean, and use that VDS 30% for the discount, right?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, if they just use this URL,
Yeah.
this www.ValueDriverSystem.com,
Right.
and they'll be able to get into the system.
Right.
And
It's
just
pretty
use-
self-explanatory too, exactly how to do it.
it's intuitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's intuitive.
One thing is, if you had you're advising, a business owner who had not given any thought to exit, from the business. What kind of time frame are you talking about?
Good question.
An hour, a week, a month, a year?
You mean to go through the course, Bill?
Well,
Get the company ready
to
for
make
sale.
you have a first meeting with that business owner, and you start getting that business owner thinking about, the end game.
Yeah.
Are we talking about a week, a month, a year, 10 years? What are we talking about?
Probably 2 years, Bill. 2 years would be kind of an average. Might take a little
I know
longer.
you're generalizing, and every case speaks for itself.
Right.
But we're
Two-
not talking about a month.
No.
We're not talking
not
about a
even
month.
talking
We're almost never talking about a year, quite
Right.
frankly, from what I've seen. I think 2 years is a fair amount of time
Yep.
to work on your business, to work through the things that have to be straightened out so that you can get the best price for your business. Because like you say,
Actually, more
Exactly.
time than that wouldn't hurt. I mean,
It wouldn't hurt. It would not
No.
hurt. But you're not only talking about making those improvements, but you're talking about having a little bit of history with those improvements in place.
it's nice to have 2 years showing growth in sales, profitability, a strong team.
Yep.
It's nice to have a couple of years of history. Not only do the buyers like it, but the lenders like it too.
Exactly.
It makes it a lot easier to go to a bank or have a buyer go to the bank and get 100% if you really want to get that
Yeah.
of the money, because you've shown a great track record over the last 3 years. Strong sales, strong growth, strong profitability growth, with a great team who's been with you that whole time and looks like they're going to stay. Makes it much easier to sell the business, makes it much easier to convince a lender to go ahead and loan the money so you can get out completely.
Yeah, the all that huge 75% number of the businesses that do not sell, Tom. Give us some ideas about why that is. I mean, why don't they sell? I mean, I know, and I'm asking you to generalize. I know that.
Well, there are a couple of reasons. Probably the big one is that the expectations are too high on the part of the seller.
That's what I've seen. I've seen, I would quite frankly say 90% of the people who come to me and say, I want to buy this business, and I look at the price of the business and I see the financials, and I go, are they kidding?
Right.
You know?
See, what happens too, Cliff, is that company, if it's for sale, they've priced it too high.
Yeah.
Then it gets what we call stale.
Right.
It's
like a house.
It's like a house. It's out there. It's out there for a long period of time.
It's a $500,000 neighborhood. It's the same house, and they're asking $700,000, and nobody's even going to make an offer.
Yep.
But if they were asking $550,000, they might get the $500,000, right? But they don't do that.
Another reason is that in order to make that, the company has to be sustainable and transferable.
Exactly.
And oftentimes, the business owner is the business. And that's terminal.
Right.
The business owner is the business.
Yeah.
That company is not going to sell because it's not transferable.
Right.
And it's not sustainable.
Absolutely.
Well, Tom, thank you for coming back for the third episode. You have patience and long and strong legs. Coach, he came back, for a third episode.
He's either,
This is great to wrap up and to put it all together in terms of seeing the kind of buyers are out there and having a target, having a plan, to go forward, toward the selling of the business, if that's in the best interest of the
Absolutely.
company. Yeah, good. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Bill.
You're an excellent man, Coach. Thank you.
good to see you.
Nice to see you again.
It's always good to be seen instead of viewed.
And thank you guys for all of our shows. All Fox Robbins shows are uploaded to YouTube. So they also are broadcast on TV, but also on YouTube. So you just go to YouTube, go to the search box at the top and just type in one single word, Fox Robbins, FOXROBBINS, and click on that, and voila, there's a library, and you can pick and choose Tom's shows and others that will be of interest to you.
Yep.
And we will see you guys next time.